Great. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for watching our info session on tips for submitting your strongest application. My name is Sarah Birch. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment for the Brown School at Washington University in St. Louis. Today, we're going to discuss the application requirements for our Master of Social Work, Master of Public Health, and Master of Social Policy programs. And along the way, we'll share tips to help you ensure that you're submitting your strongest application. Before we get started, though, I'd like to have my panelists introduce themselves. So we'll go in this order: Courtney, then Lauren. If you'd like to share your name, pronouns, your program, year, concentration or specialization, and then where you consider home.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently a first-year Masters of Public Health student. My concentration right now is epidemiology and biostatistics, and I consider Centennial, Colorado my home, which is a little outside of Denver.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for logging on with us today. My name is Lauren. I use she, her pronouns. I am a first-year student in the Masters of Social Work program, and my home is El Paso, Texas.
Great, thank you both. So as I shared today, we want to talk about the application process, which we know can be a really exciting time, but also a really stressful time for our prospective students. Not only are you looking to explore graduate school, but you're also trying to make these really big decisions in the midst of a lot of uncertainty around us. And so we hope that our office does a great job at supporting you through the application process and helping you navigate every step. And today is kind of a good step in that journey if you're just now starting the application. For some, I know this process can seem intimidating and time consuming. And for those of us that are also trying to balance school and maybe a job, it can feel like a whole other job in and of itself. And so there's, no secrets or one single path to applying and being admitted to our programs. But we hope that this quick info session will provide a little more guidance on how to navigate the process. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we want to start with our deadlines. The Brown School has two deadlines. First is our early action priority consideration deadline. If you submit your application by December 15th, you'll receive priority consideration for admissions and scholarship. You'll get your admission decision back from us by February 1st, and then we'll ask that you respond with your enrollment decision by May 1st. If you are admitted during the priority consideration period, it's not a binding decision, unlike maybe some other application decisions. It just means that due to your early commitment to us, we commit to getting you an admission decision back pretty quickly and giving you priority consideration for the scholarships we have available. The next deadline is our regular decision deadline, which is March 1st, but you can submit anytime before then. If you submit on or before March 1, you can expect to receive an admission decision within 6 to 8 weeks after you submit your application, and that candidate response deadline is also May 1st. And then finally, we do have rolling admissions. So after March 1st, if you have not yet submitted your application or you're just now finding us and considering applying for the upcoming term, you can apply after March 1. Again, 6 to 8 weeks is when you can expect to receive an admission decision from us. We will ask that you respond by May 1, but if you apply, depending on when you apply, you could have a little bit more time, and you'd work really closely with our office to ensure that you're getting everything to us in a timely manner and getting to the Brown School in a timely manner. Oops. So next we're going to talk about the application requirements. Just a quick overview of all the requirements that we have. You'll see that we do for every single program require transcripts, a resume and CV, references, a personal statement, and a scholarship interview in supplemental form. There are some distinct differences across some of the applications though. For the MSW, we require an analytical essay. We do not require, as you'll see, a standardized test for any of our program applications. GRE used to be required for MPH, but is no longer accepted even as a supplemental document. So in alignment with our commitment to equity and reducing barriers to the application process, the Brown School will not be accepting GRE or any other standardized test scores as part of admission. And then finally, there are some, there's only one prerequisite, the human biology prerequisite for MPH. If you haven't taken a human biology course in undergraduate, you can fulfill that prerequisite by the end of your first year in the public health program. For our international applicants, there are a couple additional requirements. We do require that your transcripts are in English, so it may be necessary for you to have a transcript officially translated by an evaluation service like WES, ECE. Especially if your institution is unable to provide an official English translation. If you're an MPH applicant, SOFA is the platform that we use to process applications for the public health degree, public health program. They do require that you submit the WES ICAP evaluation, so you will be asked to provide that. And for both programs, we require TOEFL or IELTS as demonstration of English proficiency. We're also accepting Duolingo scores, so if TOEFL or IELTS is not something that you're able to complete, then Duolingo is perfectly acceptable as proof of English language proficiency. Once you're admitted to the Brown School, you would then need to provide proof of financial support through the DCOF. And of course, if you have any questions about some of these processes, feel free to reach out to the Office of Admissions. We're very happy to help you through any of these steps along the way. So the Brown School does have a number of dual degree programs, and we believe that these options are pretty invaluable for those who are interested in learning at the intersection of social well-being and health or social policy. Since all of these programs are housed within the Brown School, you have this really seamless access to all of the resources you need to have a very full and transdisciplinary education, all right here under the same roof. For the MSW MPH, you'll need to apply to each program separately and be admitted separately. However, you will only have one interview for merit-based scholarship. For MSP, same thing goes. You do need to apply separately to the MPH or MSW in the MSP program, but you can do this in your first or second year in the MSW or MPH program. This is especially for folks if you're unsure at the beginning if you want to do a dual degree. You can apply to just one program for now and then add one of the programs later on. And in addition to dual degree options, there are quite a few joint degree options available to our students. These are paired with other programs across Washington University's campus, as well as with a community partner, Eden Seminary. For more information on these offerings, you can check out our website. But again, we'll have to apply to both programs individually, and admissions review is separated between the two programs. We definitely recommend reaching out to the other school that you would be applying to learn a little bit more about their application process, but we're happy to be a starting point for conversations around what it looks like to pursue a joint degree. So one of the things we talk a lot about is our holistic review process. And for us, this means that we look at each individual or each applicant as an individual. And we carefully consider each part in the application process in a very comprehensive way. And we try to balance each part of the application. So for us, this means, well, we do consider your GPA and your academic transcript. We also look very deeply at other parts of your application, your personal statement, your analytical essay, if you're an MSW applicant, the letters of recommendation that you receive from referees. There are a lot of things that we'll be looking at, and some of the questions that we'll be asking as we're reviewing your application are things like, what is motivating you toward your degree program? Are you passionate about addressing things like racial, social, economic, and health disparities? Are you willing to challenge and also to be challenged? How do you approach teamwork and collaboration? Are you able to articulate your values, even if you don't know exactly what professional role you'll apply them to? Can you share, what it is that you hope to have an impact on? And finally, how is the Brown School a good fit for all of the goals that you have academically and professionally? And so finally, to just share a little bit more about holistic review, it was really designed to build a community of individuals whose unique set of personal experiences, previous leadership roles, and professional aspirations will flourish within and enhance our outstanding community of advocates, activists, and leaders who are all guided by a social mission. There isn't one type of Brown School applicant or even one type of Brown School student. And so now I'm going to ask my panelists, Courtney and Lauren, if they can comment a little bit on how this holistic approach kind of shapes your experience in the classroom and among your overall cohort. We'll start with Courtney.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been really cool being able to connect with my classmates that come from one, all over the world, and two, different kinds of backgrounds. I know in my epidemiology class, there's 2 women that are licensed dentists in their home country and 1 woman who's a general practitioner. So not only am I learning from my professors, but I'm also getting the opportunity to learn from my peers and share ideas. And I think with the MPH program, specifically, there is no fit that fits everyone. We all come from different backgrounds. I know I came from a mathematics background, so I have more of a STEM focus, but there's other people with social sciences. So it's just really great to be able to learn and develop with my peers alongside of me.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. It really, there's an emphasis on the unique story that each of us brings to the Brown School and how that shapes the way we learn and the way we grow as a cohort, as community members. It really challenges us, but also it's just such a wonderful blend of like everyone's unique journey that brings a totally different experience to the classroom and to the conversation. So I think that's a real strength.
Awesome. Thank you both. And that actually segues beautifully into the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is the personal statement and your opportunity to tell your story. Each application requires a personal statement in which you will describe your interest in the program that you're applying to. The essay is 2 pages, single spaced. So we always recommend, using that space wisely and really follow the prompt to address the following. Significant factors influence your decision to pursue your degree, career goals and relevant leadership experiences that contribute to your overall success as a grad student and in the profession, your personal commitment to social change, and again, specific reasons the Brown School is a good fit for your educational and professional goals. So some things to consider when you're writing the personal statement. This is an opportunity, again, to tell your story. and in your own words. So you might consider questions like, why am I applying to earn this degree now? What makes the Brown School the best program for me? As I earn my degree, how will I contribute to the Brown School community? And Lauren and Courtney talked a lot about community and how it really informs what they're going to do even when they are done at the Brown School, but certainly while they're here. And then after you graduate, how do you anticipate using your degree to help you create a positive impact? We recommend, reading and rereading your personal statement. We recommend asking either a close friend or an acquaintance to review. This is really the time to advocate for yourself. And so share your story and share your commitment to the field. I'll ask both of my panelists if they have kind of tips based on your experience applying to the program of your respective program. And now as student ambassadors, what is your kind of take on the personal statement? We'll start with Lauren this time.
So something that you already mentioned, Sarah, that I found extremely helpful was having an outside person read my personal statement. This was super helpful because I personally know what I've been through and like my experiences and what my future goals are. When you write them out, sometimes it's easy to leave out something because in like my mind, I already knew like what I was going to do or why I said that statement. But when someone else reads it, they're like, what did you mean? Like, this doesn't make sense. And I'm like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense. And then I reread it and it's like, oh, it made sense in my mind. So it's so helpful to have an outside perspective, someone just like fresh eyes, especially once you've been working on this for a while, someone that you are, close to or that you would feel comfortable sharing this story with. I highly recommend it. And if you can do it with more than one person, I think that's great.
Yeah, for me, my experience with the personal statement, when I had first started writing it, I just tried to summarize my resume. I tried to like give a little blurb about everything on there. And I kind of got to the end and I was like, this doesn't really tell my story and like what makes me passionate about pursuing public health. So I took a step back and really tried to focus on a few things that highlighted my strengths and my passion. I know for me personally, I did AmeriCorps and that was really formative for me. So I talked a lot about that. So I think just trying to think about your story, what makes you unique, what are your strengths, and highlighting that through your personal statement. So our admissions team can really get a sense of who you are and what makes you tick and what makes you want to join our program.
Awesome. Thank you both. I loved both of your answers, and I think it is so vital to really lean into the experiences that you have specifically and not write something that you think that the admissions committee wants to hear, because we can tell when it's not quite authentic to yourself. So tell your story in your words. And so the next part we're going to talk about is the analytical essay, which is only required for MSW applicants. So I'll ask Lauren to talk a little bit about her experience with this in a moment. But for the analytical essay, you will be asked to analyze a social issue that is of great concern to you. This is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your ability to really engage critically with an issue that is really important to you. We recommend being really intentional with the topic that you choose, and then of course follow the prompt really closely and answer these questions. First, a description of the issue and key factors contributing to the problem. Next, share plausible solutions to the issue and possible steps for implementation. We'd also like you to address challenges that will likely surface if you are trying to seek a solution to the issue you're addressing. And then cite sources throughout this essay. This is an academic paper, so we're looking for a references page, which you can use a third page for, in sources that are cited throughout. So things again to consider here. Addressing the entire prompt, I know that may sound silly, but we really mean it. Be really thorough in addressing each component of the prompt. It can be helpful to be specific in your prompt so that whatever issue that you focus on, maybe choose a really specific population or even a geographic location that is of importance to you and that you know a little bit about already. And again, academic paper, so cite sources properly. We don't look for one type of, citation style or not glued to APA or MLA, but as long as it's a consistent style that you're citing, that's really what we're looking for. So Lauren, what tips do you have on writing this analytical essay?
So the analytical essay has now become like my favorite part of the application process. It was also the most challenging for me, but looking back, I really enjoyed it. First of all, if I had to give like just two main points of advice, it would be to make sure that it's already been said, but make sure that you're following the prompt. When you're passionate about something, sometimes it can be easy to go into a rant or to get a little sidetracked. So I would highly recommend constantly revisiting the prompt, the different the different areas that it asks you to look at or include. Make sure that you follow it. And again, an outside perspective always helps to kind of rein in like what you did a good job at enunciate or like what is it called, elaborating on in your essay versus like areas that could use improvement. And the other thing is to choose something that you really are passionate about, because it shows in your writing, and that's what we really want to see at the Brown School, is you bringing your passion and your experiences to our community. So speak on a local scale, if possible, something that's familiar to you and something that you really care about.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. So the next component we'll discuss are the letters of recommendation, and all applicants will submit 3 letters of recommendation. We often get questions about who should write these letters, and so we recommend, a blend or at least an academic, a professional, and either or if you're able to. Not required to have all of these types of recommenders represented. So for example, if you're someone who has been out of the classroom for quite some time and don't have any connections to past academic references, you might choose to only submit professional references. Same thing goes for those who are just coming out of undergraduate. You might only have academic references, and that's perfectly acceptable too. A blend of them is really great if you're able, but completely okay if you just do one or the other. Some questions that we had submitted beforehand were around, if I'm an international student, can I submit letters of recommendation from folks who are from my country of origin? Absolutely. We want them to be folks who know you and know you well. If you're an MSW advanced standing applicant, so someone who's in the BSW program right now, your field placement supervisors or site supervisors might be a really great place to ask for a recommendation. So there's a variety of folks that you could ask. Some things to consider. I mentioned this already, but ask people who like you to write your letters. And we really mean that, because that really shines through in a letter. When someone has a really strong relationship with you, we can really sense that in what they're sharing in their letter. Also give them plenty of notice. So if you know that you're applying and you have a deadline coming up on December 15th, then give them at least a couple weeks and let them know when that deadline is going to be, so they have plenty of time to get their letters in time for your application to be considered complete. Seek recommendations from references who can speak to your capacity from an academic curiosity and rigor standpoint, from a leadership and collaboration standpoint, and about your commitment to the field of interest. And then it's helpful if you've known your recommender for a year or longer. Not a requirement, but we find that folks who are asking recommenders who have known them for at least a year tend to have really strong references from them. And Courtney, I'll kind of ask you this question. If you have tips about selecting and reaching out to recommenders, or if you remember what you did when you were looking for your letters of recommendation.
Yeah, for me, when I was selecting my letter of recommendations, I kind of tried to divide my life into certain chunks, and I really, thought about who knew me best during these time periods and who could best speak on my experiences. So as Sarah was mentioning, you really want to try to find someone that knows you well and likes you, that can really speak on your character, who you are, what you're passionate about. Are you a hard worker? Just something that they're able to elaborate on. And then as far as reaching out, again, as Sarah mentioned, make sure you communicate, and give them enough time. I think that's really important, that you respect their time as well, because they are doing you a favor and you want them to spend as much time as possible making this a really quality letter of recommendation. So for me, I, initiated conversations. Say, one, are they willing to write the letter of recommendation? I think that's really important. There might be other constraints on their end. And then also have a conversation about, maybe what the Brown School is and what program you're looking at. Because I know for my professional recommenders, it was a little bit harder. I know in the academic sense, they know what a letter of rec consists of, but it might be a little bit harder for someone in the professional field. So I think just make sure to give them information on your program, and then answer any questions that they have. And then as well, once you kind of approach deadlines, make sure you're communicating with them and that they have enough time to submit it as well.
Awesome, thank you. Right, next up are transcripts. And first we'll talk about the MSW and MSP. So for these programs, at the time of your application, at the time you apply, we only need to receive your unofficial transcripts. So you'll upload these yourself into your application. If you are admitted and choose to enroll, then we would need to receive your official transcripts. But when you apply, just the unofficial ones, and only from institutions where you've received 6 or more credits. For MPH, you will actually be required to submit official transcripts directly to SOFUS, but you don't need to send them to the Brown School. SOFUS does require that MPH applicants have their transcripts verified and shown before they're shown as received for us. Once it's verified by SOFUS, then we know we have the green light to go ahead and review that application, as long as all other components are submitted. Many applicants want to know if we require a GPA minimum. We do not have a specific minimum, but we do recommend at least a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. Again, it's not a cutoff though, and because of our holistic review process, we'll take other things into consideration if your GPA is lower. The next part we'll talk about is the resume or CV. All applicants will submit a comprehensive resume. There's no limit to your resume as in terms of how many pages it is. We get that question a lot. How short do I need to keep my resume, or should it be just 1 page? We want to know about all the experiences that you have, so you can make that resume as long as it needs to be. Resumes, should illustrate experiences during and post undergraduate. So high school experience may not be totally suitable for this resume. However, if you have something really specific from your high school experience that kind of initiated or inspired your path toward a career in social work, public health, or social policy, then you could certainly consider including that in your resume. And we're going to look at things like volunteer experience, leadership, research, and other professional experiences. We don't have a minimum experience requirement, but we do look to how you connect your experiences leading up to the time of your application. As we shared earlier, our student body is composed of individuals who join us straight out of undergrad, individuals who have worked in the field for a couple years, and individuals who have been out of school for several years and are deciding to re-career. So, if there are gaps in your resume, we recommend providing an explanation somewhere within the application, maybe your personal statement on the resume itself, or within one of our sections where you can provide some more detail around extenuating circumstances. And if you have limited experience due to your age or how far along you are in your education, you could find ways to connect your experiences that you do have to the reasons that you are pursuing your graduate degree. There's no, one specific type of experience or background that really is going to make or break an application. We take a lot of different experiences into consideration, and that's what really makes for a diverse and well-rounded cohort. And finally, we'll talk about the scholarship interview and supplemental form. So if you'd like to be considered for scholarship, you will be asked to submit an interview and as well as a supplemental form. Once you have submitted your application, you'll receive a next steps email from us with instructions on how to complete these steps. This is a screenshot of our interview platform that we use. It's a pretty self-explanatory platform, we hope, and a pretty welcoming and engaging process for our applicants. It's an online video format, so it allows a lot of flexibility. You don't have to schedule anything with us, and you can take the interview at your own convenience. You also have the ability to practice interviews to get familiar with that online format. Things to keep in mind when you are thinking about being considered for scholarship. One, requesting aid does not impact admissibility. So if you're afraid that saying, yes, I'd like to be considered for scholarship will impact your admission decision, that is absolutely not the case. And we hope that if you would like to be considered for scholarship, that you will let us know in the application and do so. All students requesting scholarship support and completing the interview will receive an award if you're admitted. So that's something else to keep in mind too. And finally, there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to that video interview process. Really, it's just an opportunity for the admissions committee to have a better understanding of your story and all you'd like to achieve at the Brown School. I know Courtney and Lauren both went through the interview process themselves, and so I'd love to hear what your experience was with the video interview process and if you have any tips for success. I'll start with Lauren.
Yes, so my piece of advice would be to practice. They allow you to practice in the platform. So you can go through practice questions and seeing how the platform is set up and how you advance to the next question. Because for me, it was so different. I had never done an interview via like this platform online where like there wasn't another person sitting at the other end. So I think it made the process when I actually did the interview easier because I knew that like I didn't do anything wrong when the question ends, like it just goes to the next one. Or that's how it was my year. It might have changed now. But that was really helpful, just knowing what the process was going to be like because it was so different from what I was used to.
Yeah, I agree with Lauren 100%. I think you can go in feeling intimidated, but that practice time really does help you and makes you comfortable with the process. I know for me, I tested my camera before. I think just kind of some of the generic video etiquette that we have these days, making sure you're in a quiet space, put on a clean shirt, brush your hair, all of that fun stuff. Make sure you're feeling confident and ready. And also, again, talk about your experiences. So try to have, maybe a list of a few things you definitely want to talk about and to just feel as prepared as possible. But again, the practice time really helps. So make sure you take that seriously as well.
Really quick, I also just wanted to add, if something comes up, and usually like once you submit your application, you're asked to complete the scholarship interview within 14 days or 2 weeks of like, I guess when we send you the link. If something comes up, like we understand that everyone's human and things happen, just contact us and we'll be happy to offer an extension. It won't like penalize you in any way. We want like the best version of you. Well, we want you like no completely, but we know that things happen. So we just want to, I just wanted to put it out there that it's, you don't have to feel ashamed or anything to ask for an extension or scared to ask for an extension.
Thank you so much for including that, Lauren. That's absolutely true. And there's also an option to redo if you really feel like you didn't do your best in the scholarship interview, but trust me when I say you did much better than you think that you did. And so just practice, and put your best self forward. All right, and so that brings us to the end of the slide deck portion of the presentation. I do have just a couple questions and we'll provide some answers that were submitted beforehand that I think are really great to highlight. There's a few here, but I'll just ask Lauren and Courtney to answer a couple of them. The first one I wanted to ask, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, is what did you do to make your application stand out? If you can think back to, what you were doing to, really put that edge on your application or make it, as the best one that you could submit, what was something that you wanted to include? And then maybe there's something that you realized you wished you included after you submitted the application, either one of those things. And I'll start with Lauren.
So something that I think I did that I look back on and say I'm glad that I did is I really took time to reflect on why I was doing this and how I was going to explain that in my essay or my personal statement. And also I really thought about what made me unique from everyone else. And everyone has their own story, like we talked about before. And I had never really thought about how I was going to tell my story and like how I wanted, like, I guess all the different things that made me look to the Brown School and to social work. I sat down and kind of thought about all of that because 2 pages can be a lot, but it also can be really short. And so thinking about what I wanted to highlight in that statement and how I was going to do that, I think helped to guide my application.
Yeah, I want to second that, Lauren. I think your personal statement, I tried to spend the most time on that. And, just really tell your story and create a narrative. I mean, I talked about zombies in my personal statement. So it's really open to how you want to take it and what you want to include. And it does seem intimidating at first, but I think once you start writing and really reflect on why you're applying to this program, it'll really, as Lauren said, fill up pretty quick. And then I think something that I wish I did not do, I only did a 1-page resume. So I did not get that requirement. So again, most of our requirements are online. And if there's anything you have a question about, feel free to email us, but just making sure that you're rereading the prompts, rereading the requirements so we can get the best story from you.
Perfect. Thank you both. Any final tips or thoughts that you would like to share? And it's okay if you don't have any more.
I think Courtney made a great point. When you have questions, even if it's just like, is the Brown School a good fit for me? Like I'm not sure if I want to apply here or why I would want to apply here. Go ahead and reach out to us. I know Sarah's going to share our contact information. And we can connect you with a variety of people on our team, whether that be professors or current students or admission specialists that can give you more of a full picture of what it's like to be at the Brown School.
Yeah, and I just want to say, don't feel intimidated by the process and the application process. I know I got bogged down. Well, I don't have X, Y, and Z. You do have something to offer. So I think really try to focus on that and put your best foot forward. And we're excited. We're excited to have you here at the Brown School.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. I'm going to share my screen one last time and just give some next steps. So here are the links to apply to each of our programs and those deadlines that we talked about at the top of the session. December 15th is our priority consideration deadline, and then March 1st is our regular decision deadline. And if you're interested in more info, we have another virtual info session coming up in December. If you're watching beforehand, you can join us live on Thursday, December 9th from noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. If you have more questions about the application or funding opportunities, there's a link there to type into your browser brownschool.wustl.edu/virtual to find the registration link. And my contact information is listed below as well. Thank you again to my fabulous panelists. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see your application come through very soon. Have a wonderful day.